Shalom, Israel. Shalom. I'm fresh off of watching a nice, almost 2 hour long video. I mean, of course, I've watched it in increments. I didn't set aside 2 hours at once to watch it, but this is a video. Honestly, unless you're deep rooted in the truth, I wouldn't suggest you watch it because it does have a lot of doctrines and stuff in it. Odd thing is, it's on a channel called Earn Your Leisure. It's on a channel called Earn Your Leisure, which they usually talk about, financial topics and basically telling people how they can, be more financially literate. This particular one was a conversation between a guy named 19 Keys, I think his name is, and another dude named, I'd like to say, Billy Carson. I might have butchered a name or two. But basically, it's they was building, right, and they was talking about, I think the one name was Billy Carson was like, he just kept talking about Sumerian tablets, and a lot of things that he was saying in the Sumerian tablets actually back up with the scriptures. One thing that you have to understand is a lot of these, every single piece of ancient literature, whether it's the Sumerian tablets, the Epic of Gilgamesh, they all have truth to them. You have to always consider the source. Who wrote the Sumerian tablets? Sumerians. Who were the Sumerians? Babylonians. So it stands to reason that their information is going to favor them. So when Billy Carson, I think his name was Billy Carson, said that in the Sumerian tablets, it talks about enemies coming back and taking over. To them, there are enemies, but it's talking about the angels that's going to come back and fight against the armies of the earth. And that's true. The scriptures talk about that. It's just that you have to remember who's writing it. The Epic of Gilgamesh is very important and the Sumerian tablets, because they both talk about a flood that destroyed life. Now, one thing I think, if I recall correctly, about the Sumerian tablets is that they don't place the flood all over the earth. They just place the flood in a particular area. But nonetheless, they talk about a great flood that came and destroyed life. So, and you have to look at the earth now. Like, if it wasn't for the Lord's promise, what I'm saying, he can do the same thing again. I've seen small level situations where the Lord could have done it. Just a couple months ago, there was a rain that was so bad. A few months ago, this is last year probably it happened. It had to happen last year. That there were cars that were lifted and taken, down the street and shit, like, abandoned. People drowned and shit right here in New Jersey, right here in my area. So that's none of that is beyond the scope of reasoning. None of that is beyond, like, you can actually understand it. But they talk about a lot of science, like the video, they talked about a lot of scientific things and energy and well, they didn't, I don't think they mentioned chakras, but they mentioned a lot of things like that. Those things exist in the scriptures. It's just that it's not for us to deal with. We have a cheat code. We don't have to deal with chakras and energies and all that. other shit if we trust the Most High. You know what I'm saying? But I don't shy away from talks or information about Sumerian tablets and things like that, because I am, I'd like to think that I'm well rooted in the scriptures. These things are not going to take away from my beliefs in the Lord. It's only going to enhance it, because all I'm going to do when I filter it is I'm going to look at the source. Okay, these are Hamites that wrote this book, so boom, this is what what their perspective is on the Noah's Ark and all that. Well, the Epic of Gilgamesh calls him Utnapishtim. I might be pronouncing it a little crazy, but yeah, that's the way he's, like even there's a lot of information that predates the Bible. Like one thing, when I was into Pan-Africanism, they always wanted to point out when something predated the Bible. Yeah, you're right. But nothing predates the biblical traditions. Nothing predates the actual like what the Bible talks about. The Bible talks about the beginning of earth before there was even men on it. So you can't actually predate the Bible's knowledge. You can just predate the book written. That's not something, you're not saying something so deep when you say about, because then when you say predates the Bible, then you also got to question, well, what form of the Bible? The King James 1611? So everything before 1611, yeah, it predates the Bible. Or are you going to say, it predates the Torah, which was written, after the Exodus? Then, you're still not saying nothing major, because there's evidence in the Torah that we kept the law before the Torah. So there's something, a tradition, a culture that was already there, being followed, being lived by ancient Hebrews well before there was an actual written by Moses text. So you're not proving anything by saying something predates the Bible. Like, we can't shy away from this knowledge. Like the shit that Sarasu and Seti, Polite, and all them niggas be talking about, they have, we can't act like they don't have some type of information. We shun that type of information when it's information that we need to be able to intelligently combat. And in some cases we can't combat it because it actually has an aspect of the truth in it. We just have to show, hey, this is the truth. You dealing with Sumerian wisdom or Babylonian wisdom. We're dealing with the Bible. We're dealing with Hebrew wisdom. This is what was given to our people. You was given a book of legends and shit that really likely bit off of my culture before there was a written text. And that's the thing, like go ahead, man. Fucking asshole. But I said go ahead, man, like he could listen to me, right? Like he could hear me. But yeah, all this talk of Sumerian tablets and ancient wisdom, it's there, and it's it's fairly accurate. It's accurate for the person who wrote it. And you do have the possibility, because these are not divinely inspired, that they have some type of exaggerations to enhance the culture. To enhance, to make people think, oh, the Sumerians, just like the alleged visit that so-called aliens made to the Dogon tribes of Nigeria. Mali. And honestly, I'm not going to say that didn't happen. At the end of the day, the people of Mali were Israelites. North and West Africa, Northeast and West Africa have always been a land that was much contested over, just like the whole Middle East. That's why a lot of people think Egypt is part of the Middle East. Egypt, that you have to understand, this is why the scriptures are more worthy of looking into than the Sumerian I'm not saying that there's no wisdom in the Sumerian tablets. What I'm saying to you is that a lot of the shit in the Sumerian look at how far gone we are, where everybody's talking about a fucking Will Smith slap. Do you think that we're ready to deal with the ancient Sumerian wisdom? You have to understand, as long as man has been on the planet, we've adventured, we've traveled. We've always had scientists. A lot of things are not that complicated to figure out. It's just that we have to deal with, science and wisdom and things like that appropriately. We could figure out, if we are Black and Hispanic scientists have so much untapped potential. Why do you think they have some of the best planetariums in Mexico, of all people, of all places? The Mexicans have some of the best mathematical knowledge. Why is that? Why can they do things that America cannot do? It goes back to the scriptures. You understand it? They have that knowledge. It's knowledge, it's information that's out there. There's a lot of information out there. But what happens with a lot of Israelites is that we're not confident in what we believe in, to the point where we can actually look at it and see the truth in it and say, okay, let's put it in perspective. This is not the truth, but here are a couple things in it that are true. No, you're liable to have Israelites that are gonna bug out and go into the 7 chakras and harnessing your chi and motherfucking kundalini energy and shit, because you're going too much into things that are not for you. What is for you is the Bible. What's for you is the wisdom in the scriptures. Kundalini energy and all that other shit, that's stuff that's not part of the truth. There's truth in it. There's stuff in it that mankind has dealt with in ancient times, but it doesn't mean that it's the right thing for us. The Lord gave us a damn cookbook, a playbook. You know what I'm saying? The Lord gave us a cheat code, which is the Bible. It's just that we want to go into deeper things, when we're not deeper. You got to understand, these things were written when people were more pure and focused on, it wasn't all these damn religions trying to merge into one. It was, it wasn't people that had to be tricked into worshiping false gods. They worship false gods. And they're trying to get you to worship false gods. That's why the information is out there. So that's why it sounds so deep. And that's why there's so much truth in it, because it's there, it's true. But it's not true for you. It's not something that we as Israelites need to be, we need to not be ignorant of it. Because when I see somebody like Polite come with some of his rhetoric, some of that shit, you know what I'm saying, he be saying some true shit. It's just that we don't realize that he's using our tactics on us. The same way Israelites like to fucking say things for shock value, so the fuck does he. You have to be clever enough to understand what's right from wrong. Because in the ancient pyramid text, just like Hashar pointed out, General Hashar said there was he showed a pyramid text that said, I copulate between his buttocks. Like, of course we're not going to deal with that bullshit. But there are pyramid texts that have, laws from the Tanakh and the Torah that predate the Tanakh and the Torah, because we were already keeping these things. What did you think we were doing in Egypt? You didn't think we had a tradition? We had laws that we were keeping? You thought we was in Egypt eating pork and doing bad things? No. We was in Egypt with our Salat, with our quote-unquote religion, our traditions. We was already in Egypt keeping them. You know, like, just to give another perfect example, right? You know, because I literally read the scripture yesterday with a brother. Genesis 6, where it talks about, you know, the sons of God laid with the daughters of men. And then it mentions giants. All that shit is in them Sumerian tablets and shit. Not even Sumerian tablets, like fucking Greek mythology. What do you have in Greek mythology? You got a lot of men that were half God, half human. Their mothers be human, their fathers be gods. Why is that? Because instead of just saying that these guys were part of a master race, of a superior race that was greater than all other people, which is and was the Israelites, they're just going to say, oh, an actual God laid down with a human being. They simplified their story. Just like, you know, you got all these monuments of a child and a mother all over the world in places that Christianity has not touched. And we say, oh, you know, yeah, that's Yahushua. No, you better be careful saying that shit. Because a lot of those are actually Semiramis. Like, those are actual Babylonian depictions of Yahushua. They actually are Babylonian depictions, not even of Yahushua. They're Babylonian depictions of their own interpretation of who they think was Yahushua. Meaning that they're trying to deify Semiramis and Horus. I know I'm mixing cultures here. Semiramis is Babylonian, Horus is Egyptian. Osiris. Semiramis and Osiris. That's why a lot of people think ODB was so damn smart. He wasn't that smart. He was not that smart. What it was with ODB was that he read a lot of the stuff that we're talking about, but he didn't comprehend it. That's why he called himself Big Baby Jesus, and he also called himself Osiris. I'm the Osiris of this shit. Like, there's a reason why he did that. Because he read things and he was not that I'm not saying he was stupid, but he wasn't, like, you know what I'm saying? He was too much into the drugs and doing wild shit. You know, so he was like, I mean, honestly, I give ODB more brownie points as far as intelligence than Tupac. But he still wasn't smart enough to process and to know that, no, Osiris and Jesus are not the same. Osiris is the Babylonian / Kemetic / Hamitic interpretation of who Yahushua is. That's all that is, you know? And that's why people, once you understand, and I guess part of the reason why this stuff doesn't bug me out is because this is what I believed before I came in the truth. So a lot of brothers in the truth that have never heard this before, they read it and get bugged out, you know? Like that guy that I've you know addressed recently that talks about the star seed. Like, there's truth in that. That's not absolutely 100% false. This is that you have to realize that there is witchcraft and there are things out here, different beliefs that are literally different beliefs. What do you think it is? What do you think we're dealing with here? We're dealing with, you know, being trusting in the Most High versus witchcraft. Witchcraft is us trying to take spiritual things and mold them to our personal advantage, making ourselves into a god, which is what Satanism is about, making a man into a god, making man worship himself. People think Satanism is about worshiping the devil. No, Satanism is about man becoming a god himself and worshiping himself. Why do you think the scripture talks about worship and serve the creature and not the creator, or more than the creator? Because there's something to that. It's not something that we should be dealing with, but it's something that is true on the left-hand side. You know, on the left-hand side, they want you to deify yourself. That's why we have to be very careful when we read the scripture, ye are gods. Like, there's information out there. So, like I said, Sumerian tablets, motherfucking Epic of Gilgamesh, all that shit has different perspectives. Moab has a story of the flood. That doesn't make, and a lot of these documents predate written scripture. Does not mean that they are more accurate. It just means that, listen, they decided to write their own records. Because remember, every human being on this earth today had an ancestor that went through the Great Flood. Every single human being today. So in almost every culture, there is a mentioning in their ancient records of a great flood. I roll with the one that's for the Hebrews, which is the Bible. Because of faith, you know, because of other things that I've seen in the Bible, you know, mention of slavery. You know, these things are not even in the Quran. These things are not in other tablets. The Bible actually is more relevant, literally, to what's going on this earth than any of those Sumerian tablets. Like, you're sitting here talking about fucking ancient aliens and all that, which is true. Like, there are so-called ancient aliens. We call them angels. You know, but that's neither here nor there, man. I just, you know, I've gone on a rant really just to kind of give y'all an understanding, you know, because like I said, I read that book. I mean, I didn't read that book. I watched that video with on Earn Your Leisure with a guy named 19 Keys, and he goes into numerology. That's why his name is 19 Keys, and you know, he talks about the power of the 1 and the 9 together. You know, and he goes into how advanced ancient Babylonian civilization was. They had roads. They so-called invented the wheel. Like, you know, they had a lot of, you know, intelligent inventions, mathematical things that they created. And it's true, they did. Doesn't make them a better civilization. And that's what we have to, as Israelites, understand. At the end of the day, what's the end result? You go into that Babylonian shit, you're giving up your salvation. That's it, bottom line. So with that, I'm going to say shalom.